Hey there! You've heard it a million times. America is the richest country in the world. With a GDP of $30 trillion in 2025, the US economy is the biggest on the planet. It has more billionaires than any other country, the largest stock market, and some of the most profitable companies ever created. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. If the US is so rich, why are so many people in America struggling just to get by? Why does it feel like everyone's broke in the richest country on earth? This isn't just a vibe or a feeling. The data is screaming the same thing. According to the Federal Reserve, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And here's the kicker, nearly half of those making over $100,000 a year also say they're struggling to make ends meet. You heard that right. People making six figures are still feeling broke.
How you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So what's really going on here? Let's start with the basics. How much does it actually cost to live in America today? The answer is a lot. Median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the US has crossed $1,900 a month. Health insurance premiums for a family, nearly $24,000 a year. Childcare, around $14,000 annually for one kid. Throw in groceries, gas, and utilities, which have all gone up thanks to inflation, and even a decent salary can feel like a joke.
He needs some milk!
The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in 2024 that food prices alone have risen over 25% since 2020. That's not just inconvenient, that's crushing. And we haven't even talked about debt yet. Total household debt in the US hit a record $17.5 trillion by the end of 2024. Credit card debt alone has passed $1.13 trillion, and the average interest rate on those cards is now over 24%. That means if you carry a balance, your debt is growing faster than your paycheck ever could. And what about student loans? Americans owe more than $1.6 trillion in student debt, and repayments restarted in late 2023 after a long pause. That's another financial anchor dragging people down. Meanwhile, wages haven't kept up either. From 1979 to 2023, worker productivity in America increased by more than 64%, but average wages only grew by 17%. So, people are working harder, producing more, but earning less in real terms. And when you pair that with rising costs, you get a working population that's doing everything right but still losing. Now, let's talk about wealth distribution. The US is home to over 800 billionaires, and the top 1% of Americans own more than $40 trillion in wealth. Since the pandemic began, the richest Americans have added trillions to their net worth. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% of the population owns just 2.5% of total US wealth. That's 165 million people sharing the same slice of pie that a single billionaire might make in a week. Jeff Bezos could buy 500,000 homes and still have billions left over to launch rockets. Jeffrey Bezos. And while the rich get richer, the system keeps squeezing the middle and lower classes. CEO pay has risen 1,460% since 1978, while average worker pay has barely moved. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the ratio of CEO to worker pay is now over 350 to 1. That's not capitalism. That's a funnel draining money upward and leaving scraps for the rest. But maybe the most frustrating part is this. The safety nets that should help people survive, they're full of holes. Over 38 million Americans still live below the poverty line, and more than 6 million full-time workers are included in that number. These aren't lazy people. These are people doing jobs and still falling short. And when you compare the US to other rich countries, the gap becomes even clearer. Most developed nations offer universal health care, paid parental leave, subsidized childcare, and affordable higher education. In America, those things are luxuries. Insulin, which costs $6 to make, is sold here for up to $300 a vial. Student debt, over $1.75 trillion in counting. Maternity leave, not guaranteed. Healthcare, the most expensive in the world, and still 30 million people uninsured. Now, here's another problem. Most Americans were never taught how to handle money. Only 17 states require personal finance education to graduate high school. That leaves the majority of people learning about budgeting, credit, and investing through YouTube or trial and error. And the financial system takes full advantage of that. Payday loan companies charge APRs north of 300%. Buy now, pay later apps target Gen Z with slick marketing, while defaults quietly pile up. Overdraft fees alone brought banks $7.7 billion in revenue last year. It's not just that people are broke, it's that the system is designed to keep them that way. Even the so-called American dream is starting to crack. A child born in the bottom 20% of US households now has only a 7.5% chance of reaching the top 20% in their lifetime. That's worse than Canada, Germany, and even Denmark. Home ownership? The average home price is now over $420,000. The average down payment? Around $60,000, and we're expecting people to save that while living paycheck to paycheck? Millennials and Gen Z are now expected to be the first generations in American history to be poorer than their parents. That's not progress, that's regression. And it's not because they don't work hard. It's because the cost of living keeps rising while the tools to build wealth are being pulled further out of reach. Add to that the erosion of job stability. The rise of the gig economy means more people are working without benefits, healthcare, or retirement plans. Uber drivers, delivery couriers, freelance workers, all working full-time with none of the protections that traditional jobs used to offer. And for millions, a single emergency, a car breakdown, a medical bill, or a rent hike can be the thing that wipes out their savings and sends them into a spiral of debt. So let's circle back. If the US is the richest country in the world, why is everyone so broke? Because the wealth is concentrated, not shared. Because costs are exploding while wages are crawling. Because debt is growing faster than income. Because the systems that are supposed to protect and educate people are either broken, rigged, or missing entirely. This isn't about politics, it's about math. And when you run the numbers, the equation just doesn't add up for millions of Americans. But understanding this isn't about losing hope, it's about gaining clarity. When you see the full picture, you realize the problem isn't you. It's the structure. And only when we recognize that can we start having real conversations about fixing it. So if you're feeling broke in the richest country on earth, you're not alone. And you're definitely not crazy. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. We're just getting started.